And of course, if we are seriously looking for dull, the best place to start is the board of directors, right? As Gary Hamel, the great business strategist, said, where are you likely to find, he said, the bottleneck starts at the top of the bottle. Where are you likely to find people with the least diversity of experience, the largest investment in the past, and the greatest reverence for industry dogma? At the top. If I had more time, I would show you the slide that I normally use at this point in my presentations. It's written in purple on a black background, and it says, want to see my porn collection? And my porn collection consists of photographs of boards of directors of Fortune 500 companies torn from the back of annual reports. You know what a board looks like in the United States, right? 20 members. 18 of them are of one category called incredibly old white males who are mostly famous for having been famous long ago. There is one woman, she is the human resources executive, and there is one African American who's the corporate communications officer. Some companies flip the African American and the woman. Some companies try to get away with it on the cheap and hire an African American woman so they don't have to go all the way to 2. I am not into quotas. But I say one thing, and I'll say it again later on. If the board of directors and the executive committee bears no resemblance whatsoever to the market being served, something seriously stupid is going down. Yes, applause is called for. I mean, we've come a long way. 8 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are now women, up from 1. Well, we'll hold your applause. I said 8 out of 500. And so I'm not into quotas. I say 10 by 2050 or all hell breaks loose. I don't know. What in the world's that doing here? Peter Drucker, the guru to gurus to gurus, said a while ago, 90% of what we call management consists of making it difficult for people to get things done. Remember that. Bless you. This is one of the rare times Peter's made a mistake. Idea's right, the number's a little low, in my opinion. Carl Weick is the guru to gurus in my world. And Carl said the 3 most important words in the leader's language are, I don't know. 2 important reasons for that. Reason number 1, you don't know. Because nobody does. Reason number 2 is actually more important. If there is a single word that I despise in the English language, it is the word empowerment. I hate that word. Because the implication of empowerment is we the powerful will dribble some pixie dust on you the unwashed. What does I don't know say? That's the real deal. I don't know says, look, I spent 6 months recruiting you. You are a fabulous talent. I expect you to go places that I can't even imagine. I don't know, babe. You figure it out. No, but isn't that what happens between a great football coach and a great quarterback, a great choreographer and a great ballerina? The coach is great, the choreographer is great, the ballerina is great, the quarterback's great. I lived in San Francisco for 35 years. I was there during the heyday of the San Francisco 49ers. The answer is Bill Walsh was a great coach, Joe Montana was a great quarterback, but they reinvented the game because both of them went way beyond what either of them could have imagined. Now I talk and I write for a living, and so I fall in love with words. And I love the word quest. I think, again, whether it's the housekeeping department or the new product development department or the finance department, we send extraordinary people out on quests, on adventures. I was in Madrid a while back, and I have this image of the castle in Madrid. You know where the king and queen live? Ferdinand and Isabella. And one morning, Ferd wakes up first, turns to Izzy, says, Izzy, I want you to come into the crown room this morning. We got this crazy Italian coming. Chris Columbus is his name. And so Izzy and Ferdinand come in and they got all the hats on and all that kind of stuff. And they say to Chris, Chris, my man, I got 3 boats. How about going off and finding a new world? And Chris goes, whoa. And then the king says, you're out of here, man. See you in 5 years. Now that's my idea of delegation. Ferdinand and Isabella had no idea whether this dude would ever come back or not. Nor did they care because they had a hell of a lot of money and it was just 3 boats. Now it turns out that he invented the new world and we're vaguely happy about that, right? This language is so brilliant I can't see straight. Warren Bennis and his co-author Patricia Ward Biederman wrote a marvelous book called Organizing Genius about what they call great groups. Let's look at the language carefully. Again, not a great quote, fabulous in its specifics. Groups become great only when everyone in them, leaders and members alike, is free, look at those words, free to do his or her absolute best. Is that cool or what? I mean, is that not a huge statement? And the second one's just as great. The best thing a leader can do for a great group is to allow its members to discover their greatness. And you see, I'm a fanatic about this because I think it's as true for a 48-person housekeeping department as it is for a 48-person new product development team. Because we all know in the world of hospitality, the housekeepers have more customer contact than any group of human beings. And when I run my 48-person housekeeping department, which happens to be the same number of people who are on an active duty National Football League roster, I'm going to say to them, I'm going to walk into that group of people. Nobody ever pays attention to housekeepers. And I'm going to say to them at that first meeting, I'm going to say, when I look at you all, what I see is the Oakland Raiders of housekeeping. Because I do. Right? I mean, why the hell not? I mean, what does a professional football team do? 48 shockingly oversized males push an inflated pig bladder up and down 100 yards worth of fake grass 16 Sundays in a row. Now, by comparison, housekeeping is seriously cool and football is a bunch of crap, even though I'm a great football fan. It's obvious, isn't it? The brand is the talent. And let's stick with that sports analogy. The answer is you can spend $450 million on a stadium, but if over a 10-year period the player talent's no good and there are more losses than there are wins, there are going to be a lot more empty seats than there are full ones, right? No matter how good the marketing is and no matter how beautiful the stadium is. The brand is the talent. Bennis and Biederman again. The leaders of great groups love talent and know where to find it. They revel in the talent of others. Only in the stupid world of business and government do we promote the best accountant to the head of the accounting department, the best salesman to the head of the sales department, the best trainer to the head of the training department. You don't do that in sports, right? The definition of most of our coaches at the professional level is they were second-rate or marginal players who were brilliant students of the game and people. That is, they were good. What are leaders good at doing? Leading. There was a guy when I was a kid, Yale University used to win the NCAA swimming championships year after year after year. And I've never seen this proven, but it sure doesn't surprise me. There was an interesting thing about their coach. He couldn't swim, but he could sure as heck motivate swimmers. And that's the point, isn't it? There's a thing called leadership. Women rule. No issue. This is hardly even worth bothering with. It's so obvious. Business Week magazine, in a special section, said, as leaders, women rule. New studies find that female managers outshine their male counterparts in almost every measure. I will say to our male colleagues who are here, it's not quite as bad as it looks. The principal study that was evaluated, leaders were evaluated on 20 different dimensions. Women outscored men with statistical significance on 18, but we tied on the other two, man. And so you got to start somewhere. Judy Rosner, a University of Southern California professor who has studied this topic for years, wrote a marvelous book called America's Competitive Secret Women Managers. Women's strengths, she says, match the new economy's requirements. Women tend to link rather than rank workers, favor an interactive, collaborative leadership style, believing that empowerment beats top-down decision-making, sustain fruitful collaborations, are comfortable with sharing information, see redistribution of power as victory, not surrender, favor multidimensional feedback, value technical and interpersonal skills, individual and group contributions equally, readily accept ambiguity, honor intuition as well as pure rationality, are inherently flexible, and appreciate cultural diversity. Ain't a bad list, is it? Now, I'm not arguing to my male colleagues that we are all total schmoes on all of these dimensions, nor that women are geniuses on all of these dimensions. What I am saying, as a statistician would say, is that there is something called a central tendency. And women are more likely to have these attributes than males are, and it is a set of attributes that matches the economy. Look, back to my old man and that 41 years in the same office, right? In the world of the past, things were stable, and stable hierarchies are brilliant devices for controlling things in stable environments. Right? It used to be that when you were on a project team, it was with the same 17 people you'd worked for the last 17 years. Now, if you're on a 17-person project team, whether it's finance or whether it's new products, the odds are the 17 people work for 14 different companies, come from 3 different continents and 11 different countries. And the ability to issue an order and have anybody listen is approximately 0 with no rounding error. And it takes a different set of traits. But at least we're Americans and we can be proud of how well we do on this women's thing. Marie Wilson, in an article called Closing the Leadership Gap in a very scholarly magazine called Foreign Affairs, internationally, the United States ranked 60th in women's leadership, behind Sierra Leone, but we tied with Andorra. I mean, that's pretty damned awful, isn't it? Now, there is a little bit of good news, I would say. Large numbers of women in the United States in particular, as many of you in this room know better than I, have continued to see their heads smashed into glass and stronger material ceilings. But starting 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, women almost as one in this country rose up and said, "Go to hell, I never wanted to run a steel mill anyway." And so women are now starting their own businesses at a rate that exceeds men by a factor of 7. For every new male-started business, there are 7 women-started businesses. Net result at this stage of the game in this country, most underreported business story in the nation, there are 10.1 million women-owned businesses in the United States, employing 28 million of our fellow Americans and bringing in $3.6 trillion in revenue, meaning, and you could win a couple of beers at the bar on this one, the revenue from American women-owned businesses is larger than the gross domestic product of Germany. Now that is fabulous.